Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for our interview. My interview is with Shifu Jason Tsou. He is a longtime Chinese martial arts teacher, teaching here in Southern California, and he's taught all over the U.S. as well as growing up in living in Taiwan. He was born in Taiwan, Republic of China, in 1949. He began his martial arts studies more than 50 years ago when, at the age of 11, he learned Mei Hwa Chang Quan, or Plum Blossom Long Fist Kung Fu, from Grandmaster Wu Ti-Pang. This was his first exposure to a northern Chinese Kung Fu style. And with that foundation, he went on to study with various masters, including Grandmaster Cheng for Shuai Jiao, Grandmaster Liu Yun Jiao for Bagua, Baji, Pigua, uh, Dr. Su Chang for praying mantis, Adam Hsu, and various others. Super Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
Good, good.
Thank you.
How's everything going for you during this current pandemic crisis?
Well, just like everybody else, we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
And, we even practice, I call this, instead of it was a social distancing, I call it martial distancing.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously a good time to focus and practice on our forms and kind of refine our movements and everything like that.
Well, we have a video, audio, the program like Zoom.
Yeah.
We can use it for those kinds of martial distancing.
Right.
So,
Right.
well, even though you cannot interact, but at least that there's one thing good about it. The Chinese martial arts, we have a form,
Yeah.
we have a lines. We can copy from the teachers,
Right.
and we can referencing the movements to each other. So that's still okay. But
Yeah.
that eventually, when this crisis is over, everybody have to get back to the real interacting.
Right.
All this fighting skill has to be used on the person. You
Right.
cannot just punching in the air or kicking into the something nearby. There's no
Right.
any light person to practice with you make big difference.
Right. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Taiwan. What was it like? What was it like studying Chinese martial arts during the time period you grew up and learned? And how was it different from how people study and train now today?
Oh, well, it's a very good question. This is not the first time people ask me those kind of questions that I've been
Mm.
asking many times before. Because I was born 1949. When I
Mm.
started, I was 11,
Yeah.
almost 11 actually that time.
Mm.
And my family moved from south side of the Taiwan, moved to the north side south side of Taipei,
Mm.
moved to the north side of the city. Okay, then close by my house, there's one martial arts school. That's what I started because every day I get off the bus. I always spend some time peeping through
Right.
the fence to look at the people
Right.
practice. So finally my father took me there. Because he realized I interest in martial arts. So he kind of like visit the teacher, kind of like interview the teacher, see how these people are, and he likes them very much. So that's
Yeah.
how I started. But I can tell you, back then, when I was 11, it was like early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't that popular at all.
Mm.
Most of the young kids probably play baseball, softball, or basketball.
Right.
And very few kids was really interesting to
Mm.
Chinese martial art.
Mm.
And that back then it doesn't even have taekwondo, karate, judo.
Right.
Yeah, they do have judo in Taiwan,
Yeah.
but taekwondo and karate wasn't even introduced.
Yeah.
And as of now, I'm thinking why that period of time is not popular.
Yeah.
I think that's the residual from. There's two things. Number one, even the older history. That's 1900. There's a Boxer Rebellion.
Right.
After that Boxer Rebellion, many martial art, the grandmasters all get killed.
Right.
Those kind of battles. And then the Chinese people start to thinking, this is all BS. There's no any use of Chinese martial art. They think,
Right.
now this is the world advancing to firearms,
Right.
and those are both steel. There's no use. So they go opposite. They think, that's really ruin us, because the stupidity of those, Fox Rebellion troop.
Mm-hmm.
And then that impact, and you might say that residual impact is stretching on until, even though I was a very young age. That's number one. Number two is I was born 1949. And it was a big withdrawal.
Right.
Most government and also the people, civilians, all running away from communists.
Right.
And when I was 11, everything's still very struggling. The whole nation's economy is really that good, great. People have no mood to get into. The old time we always say, if you're rich, you practice martial art.
Mm-hmm.
If you're from the poor family, you study the literature. Hopefully, you can be somebody,
right.
do a civil services or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
But so that time it wasn't that great. The period of time. The people actually, when I recall, they're looking down on martial art. They think this is, it's just waste of time.
Right.
Okay, and then the things start changing.
Yeah.
You want to go home and some other questions, and I can answer you more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think what you've said so far is pretty good. Kind of my understanding of everything is after the Japanese left and then the Kuomintang arrived and stuff like that, it was still kind of recovering from World War II there, much like the rest of the world at that point.
Yeah, civil war as well. Because communism, Kuomintang, there's a civil war,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a war from foreign troop that was back in the 1900s.
Yeah.
And then after that, China was literally just like the Nazi. It lost the integrity,
Right.
and just like you say, World War One, World War Two. World War One doesn't have that impact,
Right.
but you have a lot of the warlords. They have those are like civil wars in between different provinces.
Right.
Then World War II, of course, that's a direct impact.
Right.
And then the Civil War.
Yeah.
The last century, I feel
Right.
sorry for my parents. They are
Yeah.
the generation. They're
Yeah.
facing most of the majority of their life is in the war.
Right.
And we are the lucky generation, in a way, because, we don't experience that direct, from the influence from the war.
Right.
But let me put it this way: when I was younger age, there's still very, tensed,
Right.
because between the Kuomintang and the communists.
Right.
So,
Yeah. I mean, even now, there still seems to be some degree of tension and stuff like that and everything. So,
yeah,
with you mentioned that it was not really popular. Chinese martial arts was not very popular with the young. It doesn't seem to be that much of a difference then nowadays, because it always kind of had this thought that nowadays the young people in Taiwan and China are not really interested in Chinese martial arts, but it sounds like that's kind of always been a normal thing. Is that the case, or did it actually improve and get better in the 60s and 70s?
Yes, yes, yeah, you're absolutely right. When I was 11, you see that's early 60s.
Right.
And then that time it wasn't that great. And I can tell you, even 1963,
Yeah.
I went to the high school, and I joined the Chinese wrestling, which is a Shuai club.
Right.
And most of those kids don't even know the hell is Shuai. They have no idea.
Yeah.
And the people always suggest me that, why don't you learn judo? What is this Chinese wrestling?
Right.
I said, no, I stay with the Chinese martial arts. So I joined the Chinese wrestling. To be honest with you, I had no idea either.
Yeah.
But, once you join it, you start to learn from the great master, which is Grandmaster Chen and a bunch of the senior students. I start to really fall in love with it, and I can see it, that real head-to-head combat,
Right.
Chinese wrestling is very useful and very valuable. But that's still 60-some, but until, when they really start changing is the entertainment. The Hong Kong, those martial art movies start to come into to Taiwan.
Oh, wow.
And that's popular in Hong Kong, also in Taiwan, and later it's all the Southeast Asia. So it becomes so popular.
Yeah.
And, after many years later, it becomes, those movies come to United States,
Yeah.
But, I can tell you that from that time on until I come to United States, which is 1974.
Yeah.
And that was dominating by those, or influenced by Hong Kong martial art movies.
Right.
But as you know, just like a Hollywood movie, those are all, entertaining.
Right.
A lot of things is not really as reflected the true martial art, but people like to watch it, including myself. I like to watch it too.
Yeah.
So that was the little bit of history in that period of time. I would say by at least 10 years period of time that was so popular in the whole Eastern country.
Right. Was Bruce Lee really big in Taiwan back then?
Oh yeah, because toward that 10 years towards the end, that was Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
And Bruce Lee becomes the real heroic image.
Right.
Everybody they all fall in love with Bruce Lee. His power, his speed, and his way he's acting. To issue the power, especially, and facial expressions, and you have to know Bruce Lee is coming from the those kind of opera family. Father used to be an opera.
Yeah.
So he had the influence. He already kind of to get idea what supposed to be, and he literally was in the movie when he was little.
Yeah.
So he has that background.
Yeah, he did 10 movies as a kid. So
thinking Bruce Lee is really the real image of Chinese martial art.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it like studying with Grandmaster Chang-Praying?
Oh, Grandmaster Chang-Praying, I'll be honest with you, he is very, when we were in high school, we were all afraid of him. The gentleman, he doesn't even smile. He never smile. I never seen him smile.
Yeah.
And he will always keep his back straight, put your hand in the back, and yelling at you. So that's my impression. But he does have a couple of advanced students. We are trained under those the instruction from the advanced student, because those the students later become his disciple.
Right.
They are the one that went to his home to study, and give it one person's name, and unfortunately he just passed away not too long ago. That's David Lin.
Right.
He is one of my. He used to be my captain, and he is really represent a lot of the good martial art skills from the teacher, Chang-Praying. Chang-Praying is our common teacher, but David Lin really contribute a lot to do the Chinese wrestling.
Right. Master David Lin, may he rest in peace, seemed to be probably one of the best Shuai Jiao teachers of his time. After Grandmaster Cheng, of course, and I unfortunately missed the opportunity to ever meet him, but have met his son, who's also very skilled as well, and
right, that's a James Lin,
yeah,
into the Chinese wrestling and teaching, and of course he practiced daily himself. He's really put all his heart into it.
Right.
I give you a lot of credit to him.
Yeah.
Both of the father and son, David Lin and James Lin, they I can say they really represent the Chang because they're good fighters.
Right.
There's no nonsense. They fight. Okay.
Yeah.
And they can use a good technique from the Chinese wrestling.
Right.
That's why they call it the comeback Shuai Jiao.
Right.
It's called the comeback Chinese wrestling.
Right. I wanted to ask you about Grandmaster Liu Yunqiao, because he's obviously as famous as Grandmaster Cheng, if not more famous in some respect because of his Baji and he was if I remember correctly, the bodyguard of President Chiang Kai-shek. I hope I'm getting that correct.
Yes. He Grandmaster Liu Yunqiao probably may not have many people know about this name because he has only few major students in Western world. But he is so popular and so famous in Eastern world, especially
Right.
Southeast Asia.
Right.
And Japanese used to write this also comic book talking about this called the Kenji. That's the name in Japanese.
Okay.
Means the kid study martial art. It's a martial art kid. That's the name, Kenji.
Okay.
And Grandmaster Liu was one of the major characters of that comic book.
Oh, wow.
But it is based on a lot of his true background and a lot of to do with the martial art history.
Right.
And also the Master Zhang. He is also one of the major characters in
wow. I didn't know that.
the comic book series. It is a series. It's not just only one comic book. It's like if I remember correctly, it's more than 20. It's quite popular in Japan. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever read it, the kanji?
No.
Okay. Get online. I think somebody even posted on the online now. And translated into English.
Oh, wow. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
And maybe even if I find it, I can put it in the show notes so that everybody else can see it too.
Yeah, I believe it is spelled Kenji, J-I, or K-A-N-J. I forgot how the spelling in English.
Right.
Something like that. K-A-N or K-E-N-J-I.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely have to look into that. Obviously with Liu Yunqiao, he was very famous for his Baji and Pigua, but what he also studied was Yin style Bagua with Great Grandmaster Gong Baotian, who was a student of Yin Fu, one of the original Bagua student of Deng Hai Chuan. Can you tell us a little bit about that line of Yin style Bagua and there are obviously different Gong Baotian lines out there, but particularly this one doesn't seem to be as commonly known. Obviously, I know Grandmaster Adam Hsu teaches it as well, but can you give a little background and perspective on it?
Yes. Well, let me flash back a little bit about his bodyguard background, Liu Yingqiao. Liu Yingqiao, is not just only just a Chiang Kai-shek's the chief instructor for all the bodyguard.
Right.
That time was bodyguarding President Chiang Kai-shek. After Chiang Kai-shek, son Jiang Jingguo and the two other, generations of the presidency.
Mm-hmm.
Until 20 some years later, after he retired. So he covers four different presidents in Taiwan.
Oh wow!
And also he was training some of the bodyguard from Singapore as well.
Oh wow!
So he was a very that reputation is nobody can reach him.
Right.
In Taiwan. Okay, and that's why, and his main instruction, the martial art he was teaching that mainly is Baji, and then some of the Pigua, but mainly is Baji. He don't use a Bagua to teach for a reason, because that this is not like old time. And as you know, in Qing Dynasty, the last empire, the emperor, their bodyguards have a weapon.
Right.
And it mostly is a hidden weapons.
Right.
Okay, then that's called the close bodyguard.
Right.
They're really close to the emperor.
Right.
They of course they have the other guards.
Right.
Our guards can be different weapons, but away from the emperor.
Right.
So only those the close, very close bodyguard, they can carry the weapon. That's number one. Number two, most of those the bodyguard, they all study Bagua. Yeah, and we have to go back to little older time, because as you know, everybody back then they all considered Dong Hai Chuan is the main founder of Bagua Zhang.
Right.
And as you know, Yin Fu, Chen Hua all studied from Dong Hai Chuan.
Right.
And together with many other famous ones.
Yeah.
Gong Baotian, the Grandmaster Liu's teacher.
Yeah.
He is the bodyguard, and it is a close bodyguard.
Right.
And he studied from Yin Fu as a main person, because they both sharing the same type of the background.
Right.
It's Lohan Chen.
Right.
As you know, as a bodyguard, you have to learn many different things.
Right.
So my observation or my experience, studied the Liu Yingqiao, who inherit the martial art from Gong Baotian, and those kind of Gong style martial art actually is pretty, I would say, not limited. Some people say, Yin Fu is using the ox tongue, palm, Chen Hua is a dragon, all these palm different. No, that's almost like you box yourself into a so-called trademark or something.
Right.
No, what we learn from Gong Baotian, he has never had those restrictions.
Right.
Okay, I mean, Gong Baotian style.
Yeah.
So Liu Yingqiao was teaching. I asked you the question before. If this is a Yin Fu style, why we don't have Yin Fu as a palm? And he looked at me and say, "Who say that has to be dedicated to Yin style?" No. Gong Baotian is it's a very free style.
Right.
Okay, whatever useful, but the principle never non-exist. Always using the some type of the principle, which is universally for all the Bagua practitioners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because it when you look back on the history of Bagua, that Dong Hai Chuan really taught to the specific strengths of his students. and to what they had already learned before. He didn't really care about creating a whole new system. He wanted to just kind of build on the what his students already knew. Yin Fu, being kind of a Lohan Tren practitioner, and probably knew some other stuff as well. And Cheng was, a Shuai Jiao practitioner, and probably one of the best Shuai Jiao guys of his time in Beijing. And so he just kind of built on their foundation, adding the circle walking and a couple of the palm changes and stuff like that. At least that's what we know based on the history. But it would seem a little silly if we just thought, oh, now this is just one style of Bagua, and you box yourself in, like you said. I noticed from your particular branch that you teach that there's also, you talk about fist fighting and lots of kicking and all this type of stuff. So it's not just, walking in a circle all day. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, correct. It's many people, they misunderstand one thing.
Right.
The Bagua, everybody say, oh, Bagua is coming from, Bagua is there's a trigram.
Mm-hmm.
A trigram is the part of the philosophy or principle from the Yijing, or Taoist training. We're not speaking of the religion. We're just speaking of the Bagua itself.
Right.
The backbone of Bagua is the change.
Right.
That's the main philosophy of Bagua.
Yeah.
As you know, the Bagua itself actually is binary system.
Mm.
You can do to the power of 2 as a 4, to the power of 3 is 8, and like that, right?
Right.
But you see that most of the Bagua start to use as application on the different things. Old time maybe using for the worshiping, and fortune telling, or because sometimes they cannot make a decision if we can get into the war, or we have to keep peace and handshake with those aggressive neighbor kingdoms and all this. So a lot of things they use in the Bagua to interpret it and to use the Bagua to forecast. It can be everything. And then and some of the Bagua, even today, a lot of feng shui, the fortune teller, they still using Bagua principles.
Right.
But there's nothing to do with our martial art.
Right.
The really martial art, Bagua, is to teach you got to continuously learn how to deal with the changes. And the change, how you can deal with the changes, you got to constantly practice and constantly changing the way you approach. So in other words, you are not limited to learn a form and just do the form over and over. Then you're going to demonstrate, everybody give your hands, say the beautifully done.
Yeah.
No. As a martial artist, that form just is like a library. It's like a book.
Right.
Give you a lot of information. You have to really read it carefully and take it as part of you. And you're not just reading the lines. You're even reading between the lines.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I always tell people, and if you have that training, change itself is inevitable.
Right.
Then keep on practicing and facing to the change. That you build up what we call constant heart. Only one thing can face to the constantly changing is constant heart. Okay, so because you're not surprised anymore, because you create those changes to train yourself, so you can face to the changes and without fear.
Right.
So that's what the Bagua is, and a lot of Bagua have a very good training, but you always remember training method only, and you learn from the form and the technique, but eventually they all supporting fighting. So without the fighting, without the two-man duel, without the real freestyle, the comeback.
Right.
By using the Bagua, you never learn real understand the Bagua.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It almost sounds kind of like a Jeet Kune Do in a sense, that just the you learn the techniques, but then you forget the techniques, and then you focus on the fluidity of combat as opposed to just trying to say this is A and B and C and D, and or 1+1 = 2. You learn to develop a bit of calculus instead, and how to flow into things.
Yeah, and I can tell you the true traditional Chinese martial art, it's follow that principle.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have all different things, to enhance yourself. Just you see, Jeet Kune Do, actually Bruce Lee using that concept, he created Jeet Kune Do. Actually, Bruce Lee is MMA. Think about it.
Yeah.
He's open-minded. He can learn boxing. He can learn fencing. He can learn, there's some kicking techniques and all this. He can consolidate everything into one, which is himself. Okay, right. That's the inspiration. I think that's important to give it to all the martial art, fellow martial artists. Okay, we all need to do that. The traditional Chinese martial art, actually, we're talking about, from longer distance, you do kick. From the middle distance, you punch. Even closer, use your elbows and knee.
Right.
And really close, and like a zero distance, you take down, you knock, locks and hold the chin na, not just simply just lock and hold the chin na. And then you do a lot of those pressure points and all this. And you say, okay, nowadays those jiu-jitsu or MMA on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, we have a different concept on the ground fighting, okay? But they do have a style called the Qigong, right? As you know, the ground fighting style.
Right.
They approach is different, but if you look at it, the whole Chinese martial art, if you really look at it, is a complete martial artist. You have to be good at all this, and you're not limited to one style. Actually, you have a chance to learn something else. Learn it, do it.
Yeah.
And not necessarily limited to Chinese martial art. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, look at it. The whole world. If any country they don't have no martial art, how are they going to survive until today? Okay.
Yeah.
So every country has their own martial art. You have to be a little bit more open-minded. A lot of Chinese martial artists think that we are the greatest. Well, I agree to a certain degree, but I don't agree. If you say that definitely is a correct statement, that's not really correct. I only agree with it. You see, the traditional Chinese martial art is MMA. It's including all different, the fighting techniques. And you know what? Maybe I say that a lot of the school doesn't, agree with me. They think I'm very rebellious because some of the people may think, my lineage, we cannot get contaminated by something else. Okay, what's your major? You're a chiropractor.
Right.
So like when you go into the school, are you going to just only study one course, or are you going to take many different courses?
We have to take many
Of
hours
that,
of.
The knowledge is not just only limited in one.
Right.
Knowledge coming from all different respects.
Right.
Okay? So that's why, martial art is something.
Yeah.
You cannot limit yourself. You cannot stereotype.
Right.
And, wrongfully believe it. Best is the best. There's nothing best. You always say, oh, my great master is so great. Oh, well, I can tell you, my great master, in Baji Pigua is called the Magic Spear Li. That until today, when you're going to the northern China, everybody should, you're from that lineage. Everybody is just like wow, like that.
Yeah.
That's him.
Yeah.
And he has a huge way to train. You just think about it, how you going to train yourself, okay? Yeah. Your teacher can be very great, but, he's not suppress you.
Yeah.
You should be better. so that our each generation we can go ahead and getting better and better. You know,
Right.
if you say the teacher always better than me, then that means, you know, that we have many copies later, you know, the resolution is going down, down, and down.
Right.
Eventually. That's it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I've noticed that there's this common idea, I guess, that many think that, oh, you know, I'll never be as good as my teacher. You know, I'll never achieve more. And even this thought process that, oh, the teacher doesn't want us to be better than them. I don't understand where that thought process came from, because you want to be better than your teacher and you should train better and harder than your teacher ever did.
Yeah, use the teacher's his ability, his skill as a reference. I mean, I said, okay, you can use that standard, okay, but you know, you should be exceed. You can set up a new standard. You don't, okay, because your teacher is him or her.
Right.
You are you.
Right.
Nobody is the same. If you say I only copy my teacher, even I can copy 100%.
Yeah.
I'm just like my teacher. So what? You're a copycat.
Yeah.
But if you say this is like a, you know, it's a craftsmanship.
Right.
I want to be an artist. Okay, then your mentality as a martial artist, then you're doing right.
Yeah.
Because we try to be an artist. We're not trying to be a copycat.
Yeah.
Okay? So, but you start with a copy first. You know, you look at the Picasso. Everybody say, well, he's a great Picasso. He's a great artist. And a lot of people say, I don't even understand his painting, his art.
Yeah.
Hey, you look at it, everybody can understand. You look at his sketch, the hand, you know, that's so beautiful detail. Okay, everybody can say, wow, who did this? Picasso. He started with those kind of things first.
Right.
Okay, and he is so advanced and so, you know, so good in those. And then he even more advancing into the art. And those that get into the art, he has his own, you know, the spirit of his art. He come out so great. That's why he's an artist. But he's himself. If the next person wants to copy like a Picasso, he never can reach like a Picasso, even though 100% correct. So what? Why don't you just take a picture?
Yeah.
So there's not the. That's why I feel kind of sad. You know, nowadays everybody just going to a form, because form is copy.
Yeah.
You follow certain movements, you know, and you know you have to be this, jump this high, split, and the next movement, and this and that. I feel very sad. That's a real stereotype.
Yeah.
And you lose the true spirit of martial art.
Right.
Martial art always remember.
Right.
True, we do form, especially now, you know, with the COVID-19. You know,
Right.
So when I teach online, probably the best I can teach is the form.
Right.
But you know me. When I was in the class, I never just teach a form. I think form is our reference.
Right.
You can use a certain form as your textbook, but certain form as your reference. Okay, you absorb and you break the code, and you understand, and that form becomes yours. Otherwise, you're the slave. The form is dragging you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say that when you do martial art, as a martial artist, I'm not doing demonstration and to show to other people, a group of people.
Right.
I do for myself, or if I have an opponent, sometimes maybe I show.
Yeah.
I only show to my opponent. Showing what? Showing the movements I can distract him. Showing the movement I can fool him. Okay? My mind only just my enemy or my opponent. I don't care about other people how they look at me. But they will see the result. That's the truly talking about the martial arts. I'm teaching for the dance department. I always tell the dance student, they learn martial art. I say, you know, as a dancer, you please the audience. You want to expose yourself. All right, your movement is big, so
right.
people can see you. Even the last row of the hall, the demonstration place, they can see you because you have a big movement,
right.
and you have a beautiful movement. You can draw the attention to everybody.
Yeah.
But if you do martial art, hey, and instead of going up, we're going horizontally. Instead of wide open, we close.
Okay.
Instead of we going to using those turning around this and that, we go angle.
Yeah.
We go straight forward.
Right.
I say, it's almost like an opposite. So I say, well, you learn completely different body language now.
Yeah.
But it's good for the dancer because a lot of times they only just showing to people. They don't come back to themselves.
Right.
Okay? So if martial art, yeah, you come back to yourself and you always watch it. How you close your gate, how you gonna do the best way to approach to your opponent without you get attacked or counter attack. Okay, so that's the basic principles.
Right. So a lot of times, I know for you, you've actually taught and instructed quite a bit of the Sanda here in Southern California. What is your thought process? What is your whole process on preparing a Sanda fighter for training and stuff like that? How would you go about doing that?
Well, as a Sanda is the one of the you can always say that Sanda, so-called Sanda means all different techniques and put it together.
Mm-hmm.
You with the different combination. That's a Sanda. And
right.
Sanda including punching kick, just like kickboxing,
right.
but also on close range they do kickdowns and throws.
Right.
Okay, that's basically Sanda is. Sanda is a little bit more one step beyond just a kickboxing, of course.
Yeah.
They get a little bit more sort of like nowadays stand up MMA.
Right.
And that that still is a completely training. Has more than that. Okay, we won't have time. We can talk about it in some other time or something.
Right.
But to answer your question, Sanda is a way because of martial art is martial art, and Sanda is categorized as a sport. We got to put our protections on. We got to have the rules, regulations, and all this. And then the safety first, right?
Right.
But a lot of time people say, oh, you go to Sanda, you don't show your martial art. When you go there, you're fighting just like everybody else and this and that. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I say that's because people doesn't really build up solid foundation in fighting.
Right.
They only just follow a certain way of fighting. There's one, a lot of the athletes like that.
Right.
And secondly is the people who doesn't even get into the fighting that much. Of course, you go in there, either get slaughtered, or you just go in there, it's very crappy. Even you win, you don't even feel good about it.
Yeah.
But, this fighting, the Sandas and all this, even continuous sparring, I think this is necessary for everybody who, everyone who ever interested in the martial art.
Right.
If you're in the performing art, you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Okay, if you're into the martial art, you should go there.
Yeah.
I tell you one thing. I had a student. He joined me for only just a couple of months.
Yeah.
And then there's a tournament coming up, and I know he kind of liked to go. He never had an experience.
Right.
And he says, well, how can I go to a fight? I like to go there, but I don't know. I don't have any skills and anything. I don't think I have enough technique to be able to handle.
Right.
I look at him. I say, you know what? You want to win or not? He said, of course, but I don't think I will win. I said, you are the winner. If you register, you go, that's the first step to become a winner.
Yeah.
And that first step, you already a winner. And you go there, you don't get any medal, nothing, because you're so green. But when you come back, and that's the time you evaluate yourself. I need this, I need that.
Yeah.
Okay, even better, somebody take the video from you, so you can compare in 10 years later how you fight. Okay,
right.
So I always encourage, even yourself, I ask you to go there to do the sanda as well, right?
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, I remember.
The boxing ring and all this.
Yeah.
This is I encourage everybody, all my students. When I was young, I encouraged myself too.
Yeah.
And without the real hands-on fighting, you cannot understand the martial art. The martial art is not just a physical.
Yeah.
It's a lot of psychological as well.
Yeah.
Okay? And there's no boosting, the shot for you that, going there to fight in sanda or continue sparring.
Yeah.
That's a booster shot to encourage you to go forward.
Right.
And your mentality will be, oh, I'm a fighter.
Right.
I'm not just a performer, okay? Right. Or I'm just not the hardworking, doing the punching my back 1,000 times a day, but without fighting anybody. I'm just condition myself. Condition yourself until you're 70, 80. 71 is fine, right?
Yeah.
But I can tell you, I condition myself in a different age, different time of my life.
Yeah.
But I never stop. Every day I train myself. I training program, of course, I change a little bit, almost all the time, constantly.
Right.
But I never stop training myself. Okay. My mentality always as a fighting. And I'm not just going there satisfied with, I do this form, I do that form.
Yeah.
I learn many forms.
Yeah.
And each form I spend $500, $600 to learn.
Right.
Now I have 80 forms. That's just stupid. I can tell you that. Okay. And that 80 form not even worse than your one time you're going to the ring,
right.
going to the mat to fight.
Right. Yeah, I found that the more I focused on fighting, the more I focused on sparring and even the little competition I have done, that it really influenced the intention behind my movements, even if I was by myself. And I was able to kind of understand a little bit better on how to move and what it's like, because I had that experience already. And I find myself being able to pick things up a little bit easier and a little bit, have the understanding behind the movements a little bit easier, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, of course. As you know, Chinese martial arts, especially, we have a Dafa, Gongfa, Yanfa.
Mm-hmm.
Dafa is the fighting.
Right.
And Gongfa is training your strength.
Right.
And Yanfa is the form. Okay.
Right.
It have 3 different trainings.
Right.
Important, but if you consider this is like a horse, of the guy who got 3 horses. Okay, I use this as an example to all my students in the class.
Yeah.
What he want to do is he want to connect these 3 horses and to a carry. And then before he bought it is a horse from the battle. It's called a war horse. All right. So the war horse, when you give the command, you go forward. That war horse definitely go forward. Okay. Then he bought a work horse. This work horse is used to working in the farm. Okay. So working very hard, and you ask him, it can be like a non-stop, keep on doing it.
Right.
And then the third horse he bought it's a show horse from the circus.
Yeah.
Okay, this show horse can know a lot of different tricks, this and that, and they're very smart. Okay. So when the farmer, with this guy, he put all these three horses, connect them to the carriage. The way he connected, he has to put the war horse in the middle.
Right.
And then the other two horses, as you see, the troika, which is the Russian, how they connect the horses.
Mm-hmm.
The one horse going kind of like angle left, the other horse go angle right. As you know, the resultant force will bring it to the front.
Mm-hmm.
When he moved these three horses in such a way of alignment, and then they work very nicely. Now, can you imagine this guy, if he put the show horse in the front, or the work horse in the front, then the result wouldn't be the same. So now, we look at the show horse is a form.
Right.
The work horse, it's your bony, which is, you're working very hard for all this movement.
Right.
And the war horse, of course, that's your fighting.
Right.
Okay? So you always have to put a fighting as the name. That direction never changes.
Yeah.
The other two can help. The resulting force will help this work horse. So the three horses connecting together in such a way we call synergize.
Right.
That's a Chinese martial art.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. It really does. So we're getting close to the end here. What I wanted to kind of ask you is, any recommendations for people at this time? Obviously we can't really focus too much on the fighting, but do you recommend people really kind of focus on that strength building, and their forms, and any health practices that you really recommend at this point?
Yes. The special time, we have this crisis.
Yeah.
Well, we need to kind of like modify our training program.
Right.
Earlier, talking about the fighting as a war horse fighting. We still, our heart still in the fighting.
Okay.
So in other words, right now you cannot interact with another person.
Yeah.
But you can always practice against, your training equipment.
Right.
I'll give you an example. A lot of time people was punching back or kicking the back.
Right.
The back is it's a steel. It's they just whatever you punch on, you can see. Oh, that's the force. But why don't you give a little bit of life to the back instead of just let the back is stationary? Mm-hmm. You move the back. Mm-hmm. When the back is moving, you have to move. Mm-hmm. It's stupid when the back coming towards you, you punch. That gonna say the back doesn't hurt. You hurt. Okay, yeah. And that doesn't help you in martial art.
Right.
When the back keep on moving, your movement, your footwork,
right.
How to guard yourself
right.
from the incoming force, and how to issue your power at the right moment.
Right.
That's a better way to train yourself. Okay,
yeah.
So that can be just by yourself, that your mentality is still in the fighting mode. Okay, that's one suggestion. I just give you an example. You're smart, all the smart martial artists, you can create something yourself.
Right.
Be more innovative. Okay, and another thing is about the form. You need to review your form, because right now is best time to review your form.
Yeah.
But don't let yourself get trapped into they call, hey, you cannot change your form. This is the only way. You do it, you're no good, because our system doesn't teach you the other way. Okay? All right. That's sad, because the form coming from some ancient master. Okay? Mm. That's coming from him. But something can coming from you too.
Right.
Why don't you break down in a different way, or connect in this different way, and see how you feel.
Yeah.
Most important, the energy flow. If the energy flow is correct, you know it.
Yeah.
And then if it's something that you don't understand, write it down until, or you can call Sifu, you can whether only video, audio to ask a simple question, or when this is all over, you can verify with the simple. Okay,
right.
so let's do this. Everything. When you're doing that, you got to put the mind into fighting mode. Except, now you have nobody to practice with them. So
Yeah.
you always create imaginary enemy or imaginary partner in your mind.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate you coming on here, Shifu Jason, and and
Happy to be here with you.
and you're the second person I've interviewed, and obviously maybe not everybody knows, but I do train pretty regularly with you, and I really enjoy training with you. But is there any way people can get in contact with you? Is there anything you're up to lately that you want to let people know about?
People can always, email me, and
Mm-hmm.
you probably have it, but I can give you, over the phone now. Just email me. My email address is Jason Tsou, my first name and last name,
Mm-hmm.
at ymail.com. Y as like a yellow.
Yeah.
ymail.com. Okay,
Okay.
so that's my email address. So anybody who's interested, and see how you can contact with me.
Mm-hmm.
Start with the email first.
Okay. Sounds good. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, and look forward to maybe bringing you back on here at some point, maybe after all this pandemic stuff calms down, and we can talk more, or even do a video or something like that, or I post somewhat regularly stuff that you do, as well as some of the other students will post on their things as well. So I appreciate you talking with me today, and look forward to doing it again.
Yeah, my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.